Welcome, everyone, to Strike First, a Cobra Kai newscast. That's right, breaking news, all your Cobra Kai needs. Everyone's been wondering, Season 3, why are we not knee-deep in Season 3 right now? It should have already aired. When a streaming show, what's the...
It should have been released, I think, would be the verbiage.
We should have already watched it over a weekend, consumed it, kind of forgot about it, get ready to watch it again. But yes, so things are becoming more clear now on why we don't have Season 3, because Cobra Kai is in the process of being moved over to another streaming service, Jacob?
Yes, and if you're hearing this on our podcast, which you can find by searching for No Mercy, a Cobra Kai kickback on your podcatcher of choice, we're in the middle of talking, I think, about Season 1 at the moment still. We're sort of recording in advance, so our episodes won't be able to talk about this news. That's why we wanted to make a quick news update here, and also put that on YouTube just to discuss the whole thing a little bit. Cobra Kai, it kind of makes sense. So what is the news, Jim, for those who haven't heard anything about this?
Well, basically, I mean, the writing was kind of on the wall because if you're not aware, YouTube had YouTube Red or YouTube Premium, and they were trying to do more like original shows. But I think the problem is people don't really think about YouTube as something you want to pay for. Yeah. I mean, you'll watch ads, or maybe you'll do, I guess some people do it for music, but you don't really think about their like scripted shows the same way like a Netflix or even to a lesser extent Hulu or Amazon. I mean, you think about YouTubers and vlogs and all that stuff. But anyways, Cobra Kai was basically their biggest show. They had a bunch of other shows. Wayne, I highly recommend if you haven't seen it. Wayne was very good. But nothing else really took off, and the service itself didn't take off. But they had already greenlit Season 3. So Season 3 is actually done, from my understanding. It's edited, packaged, fucking just ready to go. But the problem was that YouTube was like, yeah, they're cool. They'll put it up. But they were clear that they weren't going to be doing any more seasons past Season 3 because they're not really in that market right now. So the cool thing, though, is that Sony likes the show. We love the show. I know there's you people out there, if you're listening to this news, you love the show. The cool thing is that the reason why they're doing this is because they want to do more, which is great because I want more seasons of Cobra Kai as well. So the whole idea is they asked YouTube if it was cool, they could package it up and shop it around a bit to another streaming network. Yeah. And I think it's obviously a net positive anyway, because I think we've discussed this on our show a bit, that we always try to tell people in our lives, like, oh, Cobra Kai, you got to watch it. It's so good. But like, it's not enough where someone's just going to sign up for a network for it, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas if you could easily be like, oh, it's on Netflix, then it's easier to get them to check it out. So
and more than that, if say Netflix were to purchase the rights to it, it would just push it in everyone's face, and because it will have invested money into it and want people to watch it, and it just feels like a perfect show for it. But before I get into that, I just wanted to step back and say, yeah, I think you're right. YouTube is just not made for long form content of that type, and I feel like YouTube Red started at an age where everyone was looking at Netflix making all the money in the world, and they were like, oh, we have money. We could do that. Like every like TV network that has its own little streaming service, and a lot of them will have like one really popular show. Even Hulu, I feel like, that has a bit more now, I guess, with The Handmaid's Tale was like the big thing that made people even talk about it. And same with like Amazon Prime. None of them are like as big, but it's just like YouTube and Google at one point was like, well, we have almost infinite money. I guess we'll get into that business and see if we can get people to pay for YouTube. But it's just not in the mindset of people to go. Even when I tell someone about it, like the barrier for entry on Cobra Kai, even though, as you said, you need a membership to watch the whole thing, at least some of the time, it's still like, I tell people like, they're like, where's it on? I'm like, YouTube, like just type it into YouTube. But they won't do it because when you go to YouTube, the expectation is different. And the expectation of, say, Netflix, for everyone who has that, it just lines up really well with this show. And I can't help but thinking, like, the news right now is they're still in negotiations, probably trying to work out, like, is season 3 actually going to go on YouTube? Is it going to go on this other streaming service? And if another streaming service pays for Cobra Kai, are they going to be able to put all the old episodes on there? I mean,
Yeah.
that would be like a no-brainer. It wouldn't really make sense because people haven't watched it enough. They don't want to bring. I think whoever's doing this doesn't just want to bring in the built-in fan base, so that's probably enough to warrant like purchasing the rights for it, relatively speaking. But it just is a show that still has so much potential. And if it was, say, on Netflix and Netflix was pushing it, I do believe that the fan base would just multiply many times over, like literally overnight.
I agree. And I mean, although it does feel like obviously Netflix would be the number one that you'd want your show on. I mean, again, I'm not in the industry. I don't work for Netflix, so I don't know some of the stuff I hear. I don't know how true this is, but the main barrier I would see in the way of like a Netflix is it feels like Netflix is kind of going more internal these days, where they want to like own all the content outright rather than like Sony. This is a Sony show that they'd kind of, I guess, would just license, and it would essentially become a Netflix original. But at least from my understanding of something like American Vandal, which got canceled, which is a
Mhm.
fucking great show, at least a lot of the hubbub around why that was canceled is because it was through a different like production company working with Netflix rather than all in house. So there is like the good and bad of that, because that's the other thing with Netflix is very much about, with a lot of things, like, all right, 3 seasons and you're done, unless it's like a huge hit like a Stranger Things or something like that. They'll throw money at stuff for X amount of time, but they'll easily kind of axe things as well. I mean, again, not that I know anything about, like, say, Hulu would be better than that, but at least from my understanding, that those are kind of the weird hurdles I would see with something like Netflix that could maybe get in the way, because I think they don't like that some things will eventually like be taking off, like, something like The Office, which grew so much because of Netflix, especially with the younger crowd. But then NBC Universal can then be like, okay, now that everyone likes this, we want to take this away and
Yeah.
try to use it to sell our whatever our streaming service is.
Yeah, I guess in a weird way, it's like if like the big this is maybe out of date by the time you hear this on the podcast, whatever, if you're going back. But like the big thing, the big services that people are talking about as possibilities are Hulu and Netflix at the moment. So weirdly, like if it goes to Hulu, it feels like they're buying the built-in fan base. Like
Yeah.
if it goes to Hulu, they'd almost probably kind of have more respect for the product as it is. And again, I'm not in the industry. I just talk about it on the internet a lot, but like it feels like Hulu's entry point would be like they'd have more respect for the product and for the people it's bringing in. But I don't know that that would necessarily turn into like lots and lots of fans flowing to Hulu, which is what they would want out of it. Meanwhile, Netflix might buy it for the potential of what they can turn it into for them,
Yeah.
which means they would be willing to pay less. But Netflix has a lot more money, so they might. I kind of feel like it comes down to how much would a Hulu or a service like Hulu be willing to pay, because Netflix will have a number where this is where it's worth it to us, and beyond this, it isn't. And they are not going to care as much about what Cobra Kai is currently, because they already have so much. No one's going to
Yeah.
necessarily sign up for Netflix just for this. It's more a question of what is it going to add to their library, their catalog. And maybe you're right. I don't know as much about the internal production and how they can keep all the value within Netflix. But it's an interesting question. I think either way, it's not going to be necessarily bad, because YouTube Red and Premium, as they rebranded, it's just not the place for it. So
Yeah.
as long as other people are interested and willing to pay for it and not too keen on like adjusting the content of the show and in just trusting the show makers, I think this is good news.
Yeah, I think it's definitely all good news, and from what it sounds like, the one of the main end games is to get more Cobra Kai, and I think that's great. So,
Yeah.
I'd love to see at least another 1 or 2 seasons out of this. I mean, obviously more if they get great ideas, but I'd want to see at least another 1 or 2, or at the very least because I don't think they went into season 3 thinking this would be the last. At the very least, I'd like to them have an idea of when they would be, shut down or canceled or whatever, so they could kind of have an ending. Because at least based off of 2 seasons, and like most TV shows, you like to end on a cliffhanger. So it's always a bum out when a show you like gets canceled and then it just gets left kind of there. So I don't know. Good news for all. I mean, obviously, you got to hope for Netflix. I have Netflix and Hulu, so I'm cool either way. But yeah, there's obviously always a lot of big potential with Netflix, and it'd be really nice to see this show blow up even more. Because it obviously has the loyal fan base out there, but I think it's deserving of even more credibility and more feverish fans out there loving the show because it's a great show, and so more people should be watching it.
Yeah, and like there's a selfish side to it for me because we have a Cobra Kai podcast, and unlike our Sopranos podcast, which you can find by searching for Cut to Black on your podcatcher of choice, Cut to Black, a Sopranos sit down, like Cobra Kai, you talk to people about it, and even like they'll go like, I have no idea what show you're talking about, even though you go in your head, I know I told you about this show 2 years ago and you never fucking watched it, even though it's right there on YouTube. It was free for months. And selfishly, as someone who runs a podcast about it, I want more people, because I want more people to listen to our podcast, but also because I want more people to watch it and because I want more people to talk to about it, because I'm really excited about it and for what it does with storytelling. Like, it's not breaking barriers or anything. It's just a really good show, and the fan base is relatively speaking small, but we're so dedicated, and we're just gonna, whatever streaming service it goes on, we're gonna tell everyone to watch it. So I think it's gonna be a good deal for whoever throws out the most money for it.
Yeah, and I guess the other side of it, like being in this pandemic that we are right now, it must look nice on paper, because even though a lot of things can still be made, or things are still being worked on remotely, to have a packaged, here's a done season of a show plus 2 other seasons, something you can launch and promote and get eyes on, it's got to look pretty good.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point, because you can't make any new stuff right now. I feel like that's exactly why the Hamilton film is coming to Disney Plus so soon, because Disney's kind of, well, I wouldn't say they're hemorrhaging money. Like, they're Disney, they're fine. But basically, like, everyone was speculating that would be released sometime next year or whatever. But that was a situation of like, we have this recorded, we can put it out now. We want more people on Disney Plus. Like, and also, yeah, I don't see why Disney wouldn't be in the running as well to try to pick this up, unless Sony, Disney, the whole dispute there. Because like Disney feels like they are the ones who are actually, they've recently launched, they're still trying to attract people to their service. And I don't know. That's another one to think about that hasn't been mentioned, but I just feel like they're putting out a lot of stuff, or they're the ones who are like, oh shit, we're launched a streaming service right now. It's perfect timing, but also we can't make anything new right now. So fuck.
Well, in a lot of ways, Hulu is kind of an extension of Disney now too.
Good point. Yeah, of course.
They don't outright own it, but they own a good amount of it. But yeah, I mean, I think it's still kind of within the discussion, like in the realm. I guess personally, like, Hulu always seemed more second, but it's kind of on the come up, at least in my own bubble. Amazon Prime still has yet to break in my bubble, although I did like The Boys is a very good show. I don't know if you watched that, Jacob.
I did, yeah. I like that as well.
I've watched a little bit of Fleabag. I don't know if that's technically just Amazon, because I don't know if it was on a different station beforehand.
BBC, at least,
yeah. At least here it's considered an Amazon thing.
Sure. Of course, Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Check out Maisel Men. That's the flag boat for us. But yeah, it's like on most streaming shows, you kind of forget about them after a little bit. Sorry, what were you saying about Amazon Prime? So it's like not as much on the come up as Hulu.
I mean, I guess especially because in my bubble, I don't know if it's different for other people, because I still just think of Amazon as like, oh yeah, Amazon Prime. I order stuff, it delivers to my house, and I always forget that you have all these streaming shows, and you know they still have some good programming that I forget about. But I don't know. HBO Max just rolled out, although that's like Warner Brothers again. I don't know if it's like a weird Sony thing, but they have different stuff on HBO Max. There's all these avenues, and Cobra Kai's like the hot chick at the dance, and everyone's like, "Oh, come dance with me, come on!" And you're Daniel, and you're looking through the window of the restaurant as Johnny's dancing with Allie with an eye, and you're about to get spaghetti sauce all over you.
Yeah, that's a nightmare scenario, literally. But yeah, I think we could speculate about it all day. We just wanted to get something out talking about it. Again, if you're on the podcast feed, we're right like smack dab in season 1 at the moment. So like we may make references about it being on YouTube or whatever moving forward because we've recorded the things in advance. So we just want to get this out, talking about it, and there may be future Strike First updates as we get more updates, hopefully soon.
Yeah, exciting times.
Yeah, beyond that, all I have to say is please do leave a review of No Mercy, a Cobra Kai kickback on Apple Podcasts or your podcatcher of choice. Showswhatyouknow.com is where you can find all of our news coverage. It's a news station now. And I think there's just one more thing, Jim.
Well, but I think there's one more thing, but I don't know if the one more thing I'm thinking of is the one more thing you're thinking of.
All right, you go then.
Because, yeah, there's one more thing left to say.
What's that, Jim?
Send it to the internet.
Yeah!